I'm Zoe Delahunty-Light, and this is part 2 of my God of War complete recap. I heartily recommend that you go and listen to part 1 if you haven't already, and just to be as obvious as possible, be warned, this video contains spoilers for the story of God of War. Anyway, this is another long-ish one, so here we go. This is the God of War complete recap, part 2. On their way out of Alfheim, having restored the light of Alfheim, for better or for worse, we're not quite sure yet, Atreus spits out that he misses Faye more than his father. It's hurtful. In that moment, Kratos opens up ever so slightly to his son. Just because he might not be showing his grief at Faye's death, it does not mean he's not hurting inside. Atreus is taken aback by this brief glimpse into his father's heart, and the two continue their return journey to Midgard, a little of the frost between them now melted. In Midgard, they finally use the Bifrost to dispel the Black Breath and enter the heart of the mountain. A stag is sat at its mouth guarding the path ahead that leads to the gates of Jotunheim, none other than Durathr, who signals that Jotun once called this mountain home. Otherwise, why else would there be a giant statue of their hallowed guardian there? Deep inside the bones of the mountain, Kratos and Atreus find not an empty cave, although there are empty cave passages filled with bodies, but best not to dwell on that one too much, but what was once a bustling, loud and rambunctious mining operation run by both dwarves and Jotun. Evidently, the two races got along well, and I have my own theories as to why, which I'll be going into in my lore video on the Jotun. Amidst the dark and dust of the abandoned mining town in the heart of the mountain, Atreus finds a number of discarded broken lanterns. They're scattered across their path, and after hopefully examining a couple, Atreus finally finds one that, despite the years, remains intact. He lights it for his mother and it rises into the caverns. Atreus watches as Kratos gently holds his back. Physical touch in affection is a big step for Kratos. Think back to when he couldn't even touch Atreus to comfort him after he killed his first stag. This is just one of the small signs that slowly Kratos and Atreus are starting to understand each other. Fixing a lift that Atreus accidentally broke, they ascend into the mountain. Look carefully, and in the walls you can see houses, stairs, and paths carved into the rock. I think this is where Jotuns lived when they could still be found in Midgard, which makes sense if you think about it, as the heart of the mountain and these structures are not only close to the mining town, but also, and more importantly, Jotunheim, the giant's home realm. I've skipped past most of it here, but Kratos and Atreus have been causing a ruckus in the heart of the mountain. Draugr have fallen to their blade and bow in the dozens, and all that noise, as well as the catastrophic fall of the very lift raising them up to the top of the mountain, has made a hell of a lot of noise. It hasn't gone unheard. Hraezlyr, draconic terror of the mountain, erupts from the rock and burrows, yes, burrows its way to the peak. There it meets Sindri, who can't escape it no matter how easily he escaped Freyja's notice, and Atreus convinces Kratos that they have to help their dwarven blacksmith. Well, one of them at least. Hraezlyr has adapted to live within the mountain, its wings wizened and useless, its head surrounded by an additional, tough exoskeleton-like skull. Keep an eye on its maw when it's attacking Sindri, not hard considering the size of the thing, and you can see its second inner set of jaws moving ever so slightly independently of the outer jaws. Just an interesting little detail I thought you might enjoy. Hraezlyr, despite its centuries, is no match for Kratos. It's not brute strength that kills Hraezlyr though, although that definitely plays a part, as is always the case with Kratos. It's Kratos' ability to improvise and use the environment to his advantage. Perfected to an impressive degree over his various traumatic years, Kratos' brute strength, stubbornness, and yes, creativity, although that might not be a word you'd at first think to associate with a Spartan, kills Hraezlyr. Atreus is stunned. Never has he seen his father kill something so gargantuan, let alone a dragon. the very threat Faye had repeatedly warned him about. Sindri is saved and Kratos and Atreus reach the mountain's peak. During the fight up the mountain, the strap to Atreus' quiver has broken, which Kratos deftly repairs with the sprig of mistletoe from the arrows Sindri gifted him. Again, creative. Atop of the mountain, they overhear Thor's sons, Magni and Modi, interrogating a new figure, along with Baldur. Whoever the gods are talking to, they're convinced he knows where Kratos and Atreus are, but he keeps his strangely accented mouth shut. This sharp-tongued, horned figure is Mimir, once an advisor to Odin, now imprisoned in an unbreakable tree by the Allfather after he fell out of favour. Don't worry, Mimir is going to get his own lore video. It's him that reveals to Kratos and Atreus that Baldur is the son of Odin. It's also him who breaks the bad news to the father and son. They've been wrong this whole time. The highest peak in the 9 realms isn't here in Midgard, where they've been journeying to all this time, but in Jotunheim, the hidden realm of the Jotuns. The bridge and gates to Jotunheim has been hidden by the giants as they fled to their home realm from Odin's grasp, but Mimir, the smartest man alive according to his totally unbiased view, knows of another way to get there. However, he has to come with Kratos and Atreus. Now, usually this wouldn't be a problem, but that tree he's suspended within cannot be cut by any weapon, so to bring him with them, Kratos has to cut off Mimir's head. While negotiating with Mimir, the god tries to impress upon Kratos the importance of telling Atreus about his past and his true nature. Kratos, instead, cuts off his head. Latching onto his waist, Kratos and Atreus take his very grey, dead head to the Witch of the Woods, who Mimir knows will be able to reanimate him. Upon reaching her door, the witch is terrified by the sight of Atreus' mistletoe arrows, calling them evil, and burns them in the fire. Following that, Mimir is revived by some grubs in the mouth and a good dunking. He's greeted by a glob of spit from the witch. Mimir tells all. She's no witch, she's Freyja, queen of the Vanir and Odin's wife. Kratos is furious at this revelation as he does not trust gods of any type, but Freyja sharply points out that there's no way he can lecture her about not being open about her godhood when that's literally what he's doing to Atreus, which is fair enough. It emerges that Mimir is the one who brokered peace between the Aesir and Vanir by convincing Odin and Freyja, the heads of their clans, to wed, which is why Freyja hates Mimir so much. That marriage did not end well. At first, it looked like the usually vicious Odin sought to make his bride happy, and they had a semblance of marital bliss. Odin didn't care about that. He didn't care about Freyja's happiness. He only paid her respect and kindness so she'd eventually trust him enough to teach him some of the Vanir magic, which she did. He then used her gift for his own fucked up purposes, which will emerge in due course. Now, both Freyja and Mimir both warn Kratos that he should tell Atreus of his nature as a half-god. Hearing their warnings in stereo isn't enough to convince Kratos though, and he ignores both of them. Mimir gets Kratos to take him to talk to Jormungandr, who, being the last giant in Midgard, needs to be on side with the plan to open the way to Jotunheim. Waking up the giant, the very first thing Jormungandr does is eat the statue of Thor, as he absolutely loathes the god. Loathes isn't even a strong enough word. Whatever word there is that's deeper and colder than hate, that's how the world serpent feels towards Thor. Mimir pisses him off briefly when he refers to Kratos and Atreus as friends of Odin, but after quickly rectifying the worst possible thing he could say, Mimir wins Jormungandr over again and the world serpent agrees to help them reach Jotunheim. He realigns the bridge to direct them where to go next. The first thing the trio need to get to Jotunheim is a bit of the chisel used by the frost giant Thamur, which is the only thing potent enough to carve the black travel rune which will open the gates to Jotunheim. Thamur is a frost giant who was violently murdered by Thor because Let's face it, gods don't kill people, they murder people, by shoving said chisel into Thamur's head. Thor's bloodthirst is the only thing that outstrips Odin's paranoia. Sindri appears out of apparently nowhere once again, and finally lets Kratos and Atreus in on a secret. Dwarves have the ability to step between realms, getting to places extraordinarily quickly, which other species simply can't do. Some brains can't process this inter-realm stepping, so to them, it looks like the dwarves simply vanish. Back to the chisel. It's frozen below a thick sheet of rock-solid magical ice formed by Thamur's last breath. Kratos has a plan, though. Instead of remaining stoically quiet, Kratos actually asks Atreus how he thinks he's going to break the ice, engaging his son and gently teaching him how his surroundings can be more potent than any weapon. Realizing the plan is to use Thamur's hammer to smash the ice below, thus revealing the path to the chisel, father and son fight their way to the top of the hammer and cut the strap that ties it to Thamur's dead wrist. Atreus does pretty well during the onslaught, and Kratos notices. He praises his son's improving fighting prowess. I think he's growing proud of Atreus. Magni and Modi disrupt the final push to the chisel's tip, unsurprisingly. During the ensuing and very predictable fight, the brothers goad Atreus by insulting Faye, provoking Atreus into a wild fury. Kratos uses this distraction to cleave Magni's skull in half, and Modi flees. Brought on by his anger, Atreus' sickness returns. His father's Spartan rage that sleeps within Atreus' small body is stirring. Next stop is Tyr's temple, which lies below the bridge. On the eve of their descent, they're ambushed by Modi, who restrains Kratos with his lightning and takes Atreus hostage, saying he's gonna be his new little brother. Ew. Kratos tries to free himself of the lightning, but it's too much even for him. One final insult from Modi pushes Atreus to the brink, and after years of sickness, Atreus' Spartan rage finally erupts from his body. Atreus is unable to bear the power and falls to the ground. All this time, Atreus has been unconsciously fighting his godly nature, as he believes he's mortal, and the mental and physical toil this is taking on him just couldn't be repressed any longer. During Kratos' frantic journey to Freyja, who Mimir believes can heal Atreus, someone uses the horn to summon Jormungandr. At the moment, this is being recorded before the release of God of War Ragnarok, so I don't know who that was. Keep an eye on the channel, as I'll be doing an explainer as soon as I know who spoke to our large serpentine friend. Kratos pleads Freyja for her help, and I mean, it's not like she can turn down aiding a child who's on the brink of death. The heart of Helheim's gatekeeper is needed for the remedy, but Leviathan's ice magic is useless there, as Helheim is a realm wrought out of ice. Kratos knows what he has to do. On his way home, Kratos is mocked by visions of Athena. I say visions, but I'm unsure whether they are all in his head, or, like in God of War 3, this is Athena's astral projection. Underneath his floorboards, Kratos brings out something wrapped in rags. Hidden for years just below his feet, waiting all this time, are the Blades of Chaos. Binding them to his arms once again, Kratos is pained, but he has to confront his past for his son's sake. The Blades of Chaos, imbued with flame, slice through the ice magic Hellwalkers like butter. So now it's time for Kratos to go to Helheim. And there you go, part 2 of the God of War recap. Once I'm done with this story recap, which characters or other lore would you like to be covered? Let me know in the comments below. This is the second in a series of videos about God of War lore, so if you're interested in them, make sure to subscribe and keep an eye on the channel. Now I'm gonna go and hide my favourite weapons underneath my floorboards like my good pal Kratos, so I'll see you next time.